Hey up. Well, you've got to admit it's all good fun in California at the moment, isn't it? It kind of made me wonder why now rioting has begun when in the past the federal government deported over 1 million Mexicans in some of their anti immigration campaigns. 1954, you had the magnificently named Operation Wetback, when the feds slung out about between 1.5 million and 2 million illegal Mexican farm laborers. There were no riots. So, what's the difference between yesterday and today? Well, one of the differences, of course, is that it does look to me as if the federal government now is actually trying to provoke rioting for political reasons of their own. There were demonstrations in Los Angeles against the immigration authorities. The governor of the state, the mayor of Los Angeles, neither of them requested federal assistance, but they got it. So they were opposed to this, and all in all, it provoked a reaction. What began as demonstrations became almost insurrectionary. This forces the Democrats to appear as if they are defenders of foreigners and allows Donald Trump to present himself as the defender of Americans. Perfectly understandable political strategy. But there is another factor at work here: why people didn't protest in the past and why they do today. And that's to do with the nature of the American border with Mexico. You see, in the past, the border was never actually open, but it was easy to navigate. Let's just consider how life was in the 20th century, because the changes are 21st century to the border. Back in the 20th century, you were a young man, no prospects, and even less money. So you would decide to go to the United States, a wetbacking. You would hitchhike to the border, speak to somebody, get advice from people who knew the border, where it was best to cross. Once you were across, yeah, you had to keep your head down for a few miles. But once you were beyond, say, 10, 15 miles, there were no immigration patrols. You could get on a bus if you could afford it, otherwise, you hitched to the town or city where your uncle or your cousin lived. He would fix you up with a job, give you somewhere to sleep, and you set to work earning dollars. Fast forward 3, 4, maybe 5 years, you had sent money home to your mother. You'd sent money home for her to keep for you until you came back. You would have discussed with some other member of your family the purchase of a plot of land. You would go back to Mexico. This time you would take the bus all the way there, go back to Mexico, go back to your village, sign the papers, buy the plot of land, set to work building a house for yourself. Obviously, you didn't have enough money to build the whole house, so you would lay the foundations, set to work building a living room, maybe a kitchen or a bathroom. And you and your brothers and your cousins would work so long as you had money to buy the cement and other building materials. While all this was going on, the mothers of various nubile females in the town would watch you and realize that you were a good catch for their daughters. So all of a sudden, you're now a very popular young man with the girls of the town. You choose the girl of your dreams, you marry her, she moves into your house, your family home. You carry on working, you build the living room, you build maybe the bathroom or the kitchen. As the money begins to run out and as she becomes heavier and heavier pregnant, then you head back to the United States. 2 years later, 3 years later, it's rinse and repeat. You return to Mexico to continue the construction of the property, or maybe your wife had supervised the workman who came in and built it. You sent money back to her. She bought cement, bricks, and before you know it, you would have more or less a house constructed. It may still have had a tarpaulin for a roof, but that would have to wait until you had gone back again to the United States and earned the dollars that you would need to put a roof on the property, a permanent roof. So that's how it went. If you think that's strange, that's just how the Central Europeans behaved in Britain. The Poles, living six to a room, sending all their money back to Poland, building a house bit by bit. The Poles, the Romanians, the Hungarians all did the same. Why should the Mexicans be any different? But the point was, in those days, you could come and go as you pleased. This century, you can't. The Americans are spending millions on protecting the border from illegal immigrants. And because protecting the border is not sufficient, then they're spending millions on policing illegal migrants in their country. They're doing deportations, large numbers. Now, Trump is not the first to do this. God knows Obama kicked out I don't know how many illegal migrants. But nevertheless, Trump gets the black mark largely because the Democrats hate him. And Obama, of course, was a Democrat president. So he was given a bye on this. So once you've been slung out of the United States, it's not like the last century when you would wait a few days until the anti immigration campaign ended and then sneak back. Now it costs thousands of dollars to get across the border because you need to hire somebody to help you avoid all the patrols, the border patrols. So once you're in the United States these days as a wetback, then you stay there. In the past, you would come and you would go. You don't do that anymore. Now you stay. So this has had the effect, the unwanted effect, but nevertheless, it's still an effect of increasing the illegal population in the United States. They don't stay there for 2 or 3 years and then go home. They stay there once they're in the country. Now, obviously, most Mexicans are, well, Mexican. In fact, Mexicans are the group least likely to become American nationals. They go to El Norte, the North, as they call the United States, buscando dólares, looking for dollars. That's what it's about. It's not about the American dream, it's about dollars to take home to Mexico to build a life for themselves there. In the past, as far as American capitalism was concerned, this was a wonderful situation because they got the cheap labor from Mexico, but it was cheap labor that eventually went home. So you didn't have to worry about paying pensions to them or anything like that. You could also pay them minimum wage or minimal wage, and they would accept it because they weren't there to become Americans. They were just there to get dollars. Well, that's changed because you see, if you're born in the United States, then you are an American national. That's just the way the country works. The problem with that is because the Mexicans can no longer go home every now and again, they don't have their children in Mexico, they have them in the United States. And those children can't be deported. So, what's going on at the moment is a very curious combination of federal government action to discredit the Democrats and Hispanic Americans who were born in the United States and who don't want to see their parents deported to Mexico, splitting up the families. How this will play out, I don't know. But it looks to me as if it ain't over yet. I noticed that Dallas, which is one of the few American big cities to have a Republican mayor, uh, has now joined in the protests. They're not violent yet. Hopefully, they won't become violent. But the Hispanics in Texas are now supporting the demonstrations, the anti federal government actions. So it could spread. We'll just have to wait and see. But that's what's happened. And that's why it's all happening now and didn't happen in the past. Think on, folks.